Is John Harbaugh, the Baltimore Ravens head coach, on the hot seat? This and so much more on this episode of Quiet Storm. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to yet another episode of Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple. Some new Baltimore Ravens information that has come out as of today, December 9th, 2025. We're going to talk about, is John Harbaugh on the hot seat truly? I mean, the Ravens are currently 6-7. They're staring down a losing season, especially considering how difficult their next four matchups are going to be. And in case you don't know, it's going to be Bengals, Patriots, Packers, Steelers in that order. All of those games are very, very losable. But with the roster that the Ravens have, they should be very winnable. So if this Ravens team does end the season under 500, do you think, and here's why I want you to comment down below, do you think that the Ravens will ultimately decide to part ways with John Harbaugh? But again, before we get into that and that kind of conversation, because it's a very nuanced conversation, right? We do have to get into the news that came out today. And before we do that, I'd be remiss if I did not bring up who's here in the live chat already. You guys already know, I'm live pretty much every day. But if you're part of the hashtag replay gang, which means you're watching this stream after the fact, shout out to you. Appreciate you for coming through. Make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well, because that helps us out a whole bunch here on these YouTube streets. Avery is in the house, says no, probably not. John Harbaugh is not getting fired. Hey, we're going to get into that later. KBZ, what's going on, KBZ? Sending me the salute there. PRP, Sutton. What's going on, Zach? I see you. Point, Alaskan Man, Kogan, the chef. Appreciate you guys for coming through. Always appreciate our live chat members here. But listen, guys, let's go ahead and get into the stuff that kind of threw me off a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Kind of threw me off. Let me see. Let's go ahead and get into that. Bring this up on screen. So the Ravens made two moves today. Number one, they released outside linebacker Carl Lawson, right? Which was a bit of a shock to me because we never got to see this guy. We never got to see anything of what he really has to offer for this team. I don't. Let me know if I'm wrong, guys, but I don't remember this guy ever even getting a snap. Maybe he got a couple ones that I just kind of missed on Thanksgiving, but for the most part, there's nothing memorable. No memorable snaps, and that would speak to his performance in game. But again, guys, I don't recall a time where he actually ever got in the game. So this really seemed like a wasted pickup mid-season. They got was my guy Hoodie Ramey, friend of the show. He had tweeted. He said that Carl Lawson genuinely had to be putting out some of the worst practices known to man for the Ravens to just go ahead and straight up release him like that, especially considering how much this Ravens team needs help with edge rusher, right? And you guys can see on the screen the other move that they made, but still sticking on to Carl Lawson here, who was a Raven for all of like 3 minutes, what it seemed like, right? And those 3 minutes were extremely uneventful. I don't know what it is with these swings and misses on guys who they think that they can bring in mid-season, and then they end up not doing anything. They end up not utilizing them. And these guys who are coming off of the couch and are getting picked up by the Ravens, they're expecting to come in and actually play. They're expecting to come in and actually produce. And it seems like the Ravens just kind of, they give them the runaround. They say, okay, yeah, we're bringing you in. We're going to work you out, start off on the practice squad. Hopefully you can get elevated, right? But they just kind of use these guys as reserves, as opposed to guys who you can just kind of plug and plug in and get plugged into the system and play automatically, play immediately, right? And if you're the Ravens, it would benefit you to have more experience, especially in certain areas. Definitely a defensive line, right? Outside linebacker, edge rusher is a big one right now, especially with the lack of pressure that the Ravens are getting. And then on the offensive line as well. I mean, it does not hurt having experience on that O-line. The last time we got an experienced guy on the O-line that I can remember, like acquired him externally, Kevin Zeitler. What did he do? He was more than serviceable for this Ravens team while he was here. So I mean, I don't really understand prioritizing all of the guys that we have now over some of these guys who are going to pick up midseason, especially if we're spending capital on them, whatever that may look like. But yeah, it was just interesting to me that is what happened. And like I said, Ramey had said that Carl Lawson must be putting out some really bad practices. And interestingly enough, Carl Lawson responded to Ramey's tweet only 5 minutes later. And Carl Lawson said, nope, not at all. Quite the opposite. Some of the best practices I've had, actually. The organization, aka the Ravens, needed to do what was best for them, roster dynamics. Still a great place, thankful for the opportunity. When we talk about roster dynamics, if that is the reason, right? If that is the reason why they decided to ultimately make this move and not utilize Carl Lawson and ultimately release him, what roster dynamics are we satisfying, right? Outside of these necessities that we have here at edge rusher and on the offensive line, right? And this is kind of where it gets into the second move here. But again, I don't think we should be robbing Peter to pay Paul in this scenario, right? If you're going to maybe cut a player or not have a player active on game day so you can elevate somebody else, maybe go to one of these groups that we have a good amount of depth in, and maybe bench one of those guys, because right now the Ravens need all the help that they can get rushing the passer and protecting our passer. Just as simple as that. But that leads right into the next move, right? And Goman says we still got Adisa Isaac. Yeah, we do. And we still have David Ojabo, who does nothing, right? If you're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, you need to rob Peter to pay Peter. Get rid of Ojabo, keep Carl Lawson, at least see what he can do. At least see what he can do. But again, this leads into the second move that the Ravens made subsequently after releasing outside linebacker Carl Lawson. And that is the Ravens signing former Texans veteran O-lineman Laken Tomlinson. As you guys can see here on the screen, I'm sharing my screen with you guys. The Baltimore Ravens are bringing a veteran guard to strengthen their offensive line. And again, this is happening as of today, December 9th, 2025. Let me go ahead and read this article here. And this is courtesy of the Baltimore Ravens centric Sports Illustrated website. And it says, and I quote, the Baltimore Ravens made a move to add depth to their offensive line on Tuesday, signing veteran guard Laken Tomlinson to the practice squad and releasing defensive end Carl Lawson. At 33 years old and listed at 6'3", 320 pounds, Tomlinson brings experience and size to a unit that has struggled this season to protect the quarterback and create the running lanes the Ravens' explosive offense has relied on in the past. This is funny that we're getting this news here only but 24 hours removed from John Harbaugh literally saying himself that he thinks the offensive line is playing really well. He thinks the two guards played exceptionally well in the run game, which is just false. You're saying that they played exceptionally well. They may have had a couple of plays where they sprung open a pretty decent run. But to say that they played exceptionally well would mean that they had way more wins than they did losses. And that's just not true. Okay, it's just not true. Not for the previous game against the Steelers, and it hasn't been true all season long. But now you're bringing in guard help. And we can also say, oh, this is because Ben Cleveland is suspended, and they need an extra body just in case, like an emergency guard. Which tells me really what the Ravens think. And we're going to get into the rest of the article, guys. Don't worry. But it really tells me what the Ravens think about Corey Bullock and Emory Jones. Now, Corey Bullock, we have not seen him, in start for this offensive line in the regular season, at least. Emory Jones we have, though. Emory Jones we have. And here's the thing. Emory Jones was a third-round pick. A third-round pick that we know, third-round picks, what's the word? We think so highly of day 2 picks. We think so highly of a third-round pick. Yet we're not exhausting every single opportunity that we can to get this guy snaps. Right? So this move tells me what they think about Emory Jones. He is not ready. However, when you look at the tape, he's only played 16 snaps of football this season, all of them coming on Thanksgiving night against the Bengals. He didn't look bad. I'll tell you one thing for damn sure. He definitely did not look worse than Andrew Voorhees or Daniel Faalele. He didn't look worse. He had a holding call penalty that kind of messed up one of the Ravens' drives, and I guess Harbaugh just doghoused him after that. And Harbaugh said that, he said himself, he said the only way that a guy like Emory Jones is going to get better and not look like a rookie, like he said, Harbaugh said the only way for that guy to get better is for him to get playing time. Yet he got no snaps against the Steelers. No snaps. So it's very, very concerning listening to the Ravens head coach John Harbaugh, and this is a reason why I think his seat has to start getting hot, man. If I'm Steve Bisciotti, you got to be feeling some pressure here. We're knocking on the door of year 10 of Lamar Jackson. Still haven't been to a Super Bowl. We know for a fact, a definitive fact, that we have one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Again, I'll touch on that a little bit more later. But again, let's go through the rest of this article here. Ravens get guard help. Laken Tomlinson, recently released by the Houston Texans. The Ravens' offensive line has been under the microscope this season as injuries, inconsistency, and mismatches at the line of scrimmage have hindered what was once a dynamic attack. Defenders have repeatedly won one-on-one battles, moving offensive linemen off the line of scrimmage and forcing the backfield to adjust under pressure. These struggles have had a ripple effect, limiting the Ravens' ability to execute deep shots, open running lanes, and sustain drives with efficiency. Tomlinson enters the Ravens fold with a resume that includes a Pro Bowl selection and status as a former first-round pick. While he is 33, his career experience and technical ability give him a chance to stabilize the guard spot, providing both depth and mentorship for younger linemen. If he can stay healthy, his addition cannot hurt the Ravens' protection schemes and could help prevent some of the breakdowns that have plagued the line this season. Really quick, we're talking about if he can stay healthy. I don't think that the idea is to actually play this guy. I don't think the idea is to even play this guy or even consider playing this guy unless something catastrophic happens to Daniel Faalele. Unless something just completely catastrophic happens to Faalele or Andrew Voorhees, those two guys have the longest leash I have ever seen. So for that reason, I don't really see a world where Laken Tomlinson is seen warming up with the starters on Sundays. And Jeff Zrebiec tells us, oh, there might be a change at guard. I don't see that. As egregious of a game that a guy like Daniel Faalele just had, as egregious of a game that was, and as many loud losses that he had in that game, we've seen this all year long. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. So why would his performance on Sunday make John Harbaugh feel any differently than how he should have been feeling all year long when it comes to Daniel Faalele? It's clear and obvious there is an affixation on keeping Daniel Faalele and Andrew Voorhees in those two guard spots. I don't want to hear, oh, we don't want to mess up the chemistry of the line. If that was the case, you would have never thrown in Emory Jones to begin with. And it pisses me off that you did let him play 16 snaps on Thanksgiving. He looked good. We saw it. You saw it. And then you come out there and say he looked like a rookie. He doesn't deserve the starting position over anybody who we have starting right now. Basically, what you're saying is he's dog shit. That's basically what you're saying. Because what we have out there right now is absolute dog shit. So if you're saying the guys behind them aren't good enough, aren't there yet, you might as well get rid of those guys. I mean, you're basically talking about these backup guards like they're just warm bodies who, just in case of an emergency, you can throw them out there. And you're acting like Daniel Falele actually deserves a Pro Bowl nod. Come on now. Let's keep going. Watching Tomlinson in past seasons, it's clear he has the tools to compete at a high level, though there have been moments where when defensive linemen have convincingly won reps against him. The Ravens are likely hoping that a combination of coaching, scheme, and Tomlinson's veteran savvy will translate into more consistent protection for Lamar Jackson and more room for their rushing attack to thrive. So here's the thing. Very high hopes in this sentence right here. The Ravens are likely hoping that a combination of coaching, scheme, and veteran savvy will translate into more consistent protection for Lamar and more room for the running game to thrive. Number one, coaching. It's clear and obvious that the head of this pack, again, John Harbaugh, which I guess kind of the theme of this episode of the show is like, is Harbaugh really making the best choices in the best interest of this team? Because right now, it doesn't really feel like he has the most vested interest in the Ravens' success. And you can see that by him not willing to move off of his spot of saying, hey, look, we have the best 5 guys out there playing offensive line for this team. Best 5 guys available in our building. Best 5 guys available for guys who are unsigned right now, who are free agents, who we could just go and pick up. This is the best 5, right? It's crazy. So I don't think that coaching, and then you add in George Warhop, who's clearly teaching bad technique. Clearly. There's no way you should see our guys literally going out there and trying to bear hug guys in the blocking game. You're trying to bear hug guys instead of getting into their numbers and keeping them in check. And it leads to guys getting bulldozed. I mean, Falele tried it this past week. Interior D lineman just ran right through him. Put him on his butt. All 6'8", 370 pounds of Daniel Falele went right on his ass. Because he's been taught by the Ravens coaching staff, and I got to assume George Warhop here. He's been taught when a guy is rushing you straight up, bull rush, just try to hug him. Even if he tries to punch and stab and get his hands in your jersey numbers and drive you back and create good leverage like he's supposed to do, just hug him. Maybe the love will make him stop being so fierce. Right? Maybe that'll make him calm down a little bit. It's what's being taught, man. So coaching, I mean, it's very high hopes here in this article, thinking that coaching is what's going to make this offensive line any better. Because so far what we've seen, honestly, the past 2 years, doesn't really seem like they're making any strides. And the Ravens are suffering because of it. That's what it is. All Pat says, just liked and subbed. Appreciate that, All Pat. Appreciate that. Welcome to the Rain Gang. Welcome to the fam. Let me bring up a couple comments here before we move on. DG says, Falele looks like he jumps out of his stance almost every time. Well, he's too slow. That's another thing. I mean, 6'8", 380 pounds. I get the Ravens are enamored with that size. But to play offensive line, and especially to play it how you're asking them to play, multiple power runs, you're asking Daniel Falele, all 6'8", 380 pounds of him, to pull all the way across the offensive formation. And he can't get there fast enough. He does not have fast enough feet. He can't recover. I mean, you saw Mike Tomlin was dialing up blitzes, going straight at Falele with DBs. Guys who Falele has 200 pounds on. Right? It's crazy. Looks like we got a super chat donation in the house. This one's coming from Don. Appreciate you, Don, dropping the 5-piece in the house. Don says, Sutton, you have to see the recent interview Phillip Rivers did talking bad about Joe Burrow. It's bad. That dude Phillip Rivers is a nasty guy. I heard about that. This is, quick aside here. The Colts are re-signing Philip Rivers, and he will come out of retirement at 44 years old to finish up the season playing quarterback for the Colts. I really don't know what the Colts expect to accomplish with Philip Rivers out there. I mean, I don't see them winning very many more games than they were projected to win for the rest of the season. I know Daniel Jones just went down with an injury, and he's out for the season with a torn Achilles. But I tell you one thing, Philip Rivers was not the option. If you think so highly enough of a 44-year-old Philip Rivers that he's going to quite literally come out of retirement off the couch from taking care of his however many kids he's probably a granddad by now, for all we know, and go out there and play good enough football to play you guys into the playoffs. Not only that, to go and make a playoff run. Like, what do we think this is, man? What do we think? This is not some Netflix original about a guy who, was a quarterbacking legend in the league, and he retired for whatever reason, and now he's coming back, and this is his comeback story. No, it's not how the NFL works, bud. Not how the NFL works. At all. At all. But thank you for your super chat donation, Don. And you talked about him being a nasty guy. I mean, we knew Philip Rivers, he, shoots from the hip frequently. I mean, he's going to say what's on his mind. He doesn't care who's around him. You know what I mean? Like, he's not super political or politically correct, I should say. We've seen that. You've heard or you've seen some of the mic'd ups of Philip Rivers. He's probably very annoying to play against. Probably very annoying. So, appreciate the super chat donation, Don. All right, let's continue here with this article. Depth in the trenches is always valuable, and Tomlinson's presence on the practice squad provides the Ravens flexibility while giving him time to acclimate to the system. For a team that has prided itself on a balanced physical offensive identity, having a seasoned guard who can step in when needed is an important addition. His growth with the Ravens will be intriguing to watch, and even if he isn't a permanent starter right away, his ability to stabilize a struggling offensive line could make a meaningful difference in the team's second half of the season. You know what problem I have with this level of optimism here? Literally a liquor ad on my screen. I don't like that. Let's take that off. But the problem that I have with this level of optimism is that you can literally, with this article right here, you can take out the name Laken Tomlinson and you can insert the name Carl Lawson, and all the same things apply. Oh, the Ravens are bringing in a veteran guy who can hopefully stabilize the defensive line and provide some mentorship, right? He's a big physical guy. You know what I mean? It's all the same stuff. But what has that led to? Nothing. Nothing at all. I mean, the Ravens acquired C.J. Gardner-Johnson earlier this season. He was with the Ravens for all about 6 days, right? It just seems like these moves are kind of like just useless. Like, we know this isn't going to impact the team in any way, shape, or form. It's super annoying that we're making these roster moves in the areas that we really need help in, like offensive line, like defensive line. Because it's like, hey, you bought that guy in. Let's use him. Let's see if he's any better than what we got on Sundays. That's where I'm at with it. Let's see. Let's go through some more of this here. Q the God, what up, man? Appreciate you for coming through. Monty, what's up, Monty? Brandon, what up? Jeremiah. Yeah. Okay. Let's get through the rest of this article if there is any more. I believe this is the last piece here. Oh, nope. That was it. So, again, guys, Ravens sign former Texans guard who the Texans just released recently. And they signed him, Laken Tomlinson. Whether or not this Ravens team will choose to actually utilize Mr. Tomlinson's services on Sundays will remain to be seen. If I had to give you my prediction on whether or not this guy even touches the field on game day, I'd say no. I'd say no. Because, again, for some strange reason, you know, John Harbaugh and his coaching staff are able to get up on microphones every single week on a podium and say with a straight face to these reporters that our offensive line is not an issue. It's basically what they say in so many words. Offensive line is not an issue. When it's clear as day that us end of the bar fans see, it is. It's the biggest issue. The largest. Brandon says here in the chat, appreciate you for coming through, Brandon. Brandon says, Sutton, shit just keeps getting worse and worse. We need to go into the offseason investing athletic O-linemen. Who gives a F if they are not athletic? Yeah, I mean, what we've seen this year with how the Ravens want to execute their offense, creating angles, bunch of smoke and mirrors in the run game. And basically by that, I just mean like a lot of power runs, right? Where you need guys who are athletic enough to pull reliably and execute these blocks at the level that they need to. And you need some athleticism to do that. There's a reason why when you see tackles like Trent Williams, right? One of the best in the league. He can pull successfully and get to his guy who he's supposed to be kicking out on the weak side. And it works. It's like poetry in motion watching somebody that big move that fast because it's not natural, right? And I don't know if John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta had some idea of Daniel Fa'alele that he was going to magically just become this athletic freak on top of his like massive size. But that has not come to fruition at all. At all. It's led to Lamar Jackson facing unnecessary early pressure because this guy can't stay in front of anybody. Not a D lineman, not a linebacker, not a DB. Daniel Fa'alele got beat by all three levels of the defense on Sunday. And Voorhees was bad too. Don't get me wrong. Voorhees, to be quote unquote the strongest player on the team, which was a rumor that came out when he was drafted, this guy gets tossed frequently. Like just tossed aside. It is bad. But Fa'alele got beat by Patrick Queen, a linebacker, ran right by him. It's not even that he really even got beat. He just didn't even get a hand on him. This happened multiple times. He got beat by an interior D lineman. And he also got beat by a cornerback. But again, those are the best five guys. Those are the best five guys. So yeah, I do agree, Brandon. Go more athletic on the offensive line. Ace Brown in the chat says Lamar needs to open his freaking mouth to the organization. It's on him. Here's the thing, guys. I can't put the blame on Lamar Jackson for the inability to put together a competent roster for him. Like Eric DeCosta, I think, was blinded by the fact that, and I'm just going to talk about the offensive line here. I think Eric DeCosta was blinded by the fact that Lamar Jackson makes up for a lot of mistakes, a lot of deficiencies on this team. Last year, for the most part, Lamar Jackson was relatively healthy. So he was able to, in so many different cases, make the offensive line look right when they were dead wrong. And that's a dangerous thing, right? Because if you're Eric DeCosta and you're trying to find ways to stay under the salary cap and make this team as good as it is, and your quarterback is able to just hide the ugliness, right? I mean, Lamar Jackson is putting perfume on a pig when it comes to this offensive line, just making it look and smell a little bit better than it really is. Lamar Jackson's able to frequently dance around the pocket, manipulate the pocket, create new pockets from moving around. Oh, you just missed a block on this guy. Okay, let me shift back this way while keeping my eyes down the field so you can now pick up the block on that guy. Lamar Jackson was awesome at that. He can't do it as much this year. Lamar Jackson's injuries are exposing Eric DeCosta in real time. In real time. Because now it's clear and obvious, clear as day. Even national media is starting to wake up and realize, hey, look, Lamar really does not have the best offensive line blocking for him right now. And I don't want to continue to harp just solely on Daniel Falele and Andrew Voorhees. It's the entire line right now. Maybe they just don't complement each other very well. I don't think that they do, personally. I don't think they do at all. But Roger Rosengarten, who had a decent game Sunday, he's regressed. Overall, he's regressed this season. Tyler Linderbaum, he's regressed. You know, too many times I've seen Tyler Linderbaum literally just get disposed of immediately, almost immediately after the ball is snapped. And Lamar Jackson, for that reason, cannot trust the interior. He cannot step up into the pocket. It was a big reason why Lamar Jackson was sacked on the final play of the game against the Steelers. Andrew Voorhees, again, dog water for most of the year. Daniel Falele, dog water for most of the year. Ronnie Stanley looks like he's getting older and older and less reliable by the game and by the season. I hate to break it, but it is what it is, you know? So I think that Lamar can say what he wants. Lamar can say what he wants, and I know they consult Lamar on certain things, but I don't think it's anything. Lamar Jackson shouldn't have to tell the general manager of the Ravens, like, hey, in order for you to get the most out of me, in order for you to get the most value out of the contract that you're giving me, you have to. It's a non-negotiable. You have to surround me with talent on the O-line. I can't give you what you want if you don't give me what I need. That's basically what it boils down to. If I'm Lamar Jackson, that's the one thing that you can say to Eric DeCosta. But again, he shouldn't have to. You're an NFL GM for a reason, right? And I don't know if Ozzie is in Eric DeCosta's ear and saying, like, hey, look, man, maybe we need to this off season, this draft season, we got to go back to the drawing board on how we want to construct this team. It is no longer best player available, and that's it. It's no longer, a safety we really like is still there in the first round. You know, it's not that anymore. It's not that anymore. As much as, I like Malachi Starks, doesn't move the needle enough for a first round pick. Okay, you need guys down low who can protect Lamar Jackson and keep this offense on the field and scoring. And you need killers on that D-line who are going to be able to get the other team off the field and close games when we need to close games. That's where it starts. Every Super Bowl we see, that's the formula. So that's really where it's at right now. I can't really say that Lamar Jackson is at fault at all. Jeremiah says everyone is obsessed with building the offensive line. The Giants have spent multiple top 10 picks and paid Jermaine Illuminor $15 million per year. The Cowboys have been trying to rebuild the O-line dominance since the 90s. Well, that's why if there's any place where you need to go get proven talent, offensive line, edge rusher, and, you could say wide receiver. I'd say wide receiver as well. But again, wide receiver can't do what he needs to do unless the quarterback does what he needs to do, and the quarterback can't do what he needs to do if there ain't no offensive line. And like I said, the last time the Ravens actually went out and said, you know what, we're going to spend some money on a vet to stabilize our trenches, Kevin Zeitler. You know what I mean? Guys like Morgan Moses, serviceable guys. When we had more vets who were established on this team, the offensive line was so much better. So much better. But now we're just blindly throwing Daniel Faalele, who's never really proven anything at guard. In fact, he came into the league as a tackle for the Ravens, has never proven himself to be a stud at guard by any stretch of the imagination. You know, not in run blocking and for damn sure not in pass protection. Andrew Voorhees never really got challenged for his left guard job. Never got challenged. So when you have two guards who aren't very good and then you have an undersized center, that's really going to expose the center too. It's so funny how we keep talking about how the game of football is played from the inside out, but it quite literally is. It quite literally is. From the interior of that O-line to the bookend tackles that you want to have. That's where the success starts. So yeah, I will continue to focus on building the offensive line. That needs to be the number one point of emphasis, even more so than the defensive line. Number one point of emphasis is have a revamped O-line going into next season. You might ask, well, Sutton, why would you prefer or prioritize the offensive line over the defensive line? Well, I've always said, well, defense wins championships, that's for sure. But the best defense is a good offense, especially a good running offense who can run the air out of the ball, run the time off the clock, and score points. And keep the other team's offense on the sideline. That's the best form of defense right there. You know, so if you can do that by having an offensive line, I mean, all common sense points towards making sure that that position group has no shadow of a doubt that they can protect Lamar Jackson so he can do what he needs to do. Howie Roseman trade for Lamar Jackson. Carl Lawson must have been dog shit if he can't beat out Ojabo. I mean, crazy thing is, Carl Lawson has said you're right about this, Paul, but Carl Lawson literally came out and said, like, no, I've been having some really good practices. Some of my best practices, actually. He tweeted this. I just talked about it like 15 minutes ago. He tweeted that. And it's like, he says that they released him for roster dynamic reasons, which is obviously exactly what the Ravens told him. And it's like, okay, well, what are we seeing in David Ojabo that doesn't go against roster dynamics right now? Because what has he done to secure that spot, David Ojabo? What has he done? I just don't understand. I don't understand. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Falele will get paid in free agency? Maybe. Should hopefully. I just don't want him to be here. Just don't want him to be here. But you know, talking about John Harbaugh, right? And whether or not John Harbaugh is actually on the hot seat. And what scenarios could we see of how the season could end that would put John Harbaugh on the hot seat? I think the only way, and when I say the only way, I mean the only way that John Harbaugh's seat is even remotely hot after this season is if the Ravens miss the playoffs completely. Because that would be the third year, right? Well, this would be another step back, right? So you make it to the AFC Championship game in 23, right? You lose that game. In 24, all right, let's run it back. You only make it to the divisional game. So you can one step shorter. And then in this season, if you don't even make a wild card appearance and you completely miss the playoffs, that would make it seem like, and if you go below 500, that would make it seem like the bottom has fallen out of this organization. And if I'm Steve Bisciotti, Ravens owner, who was on the record as of this past summer saying, hey, look, I want to win a Super Bowl now. Well, look, man, I mean, we haven't won a Super Bowl in 13 years, bro. If you want a Super Bowl, if you want something to change within your organization, if you want to achieve something within your organization that you haven't been able to achieve for almost a decade and a half now, you got to make a big change within the organization in order to see the results that you're hoping for. Problem is, John Harbaugh is Steve Bisciotti's guy. Steve Bisciotti handpicked John Harbaugh to be the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens 18 years ago. So, and I know back in 2017, Steve Bisciotti was on an interview, I think with Rich Eisen, saying that, hey, yeah, look, I mean, Harbaugh's seat was hot, right? We weren't winning. And, I'm sure those ticket sales were hitting Steve Bisciotti in the pockets. Now that we have Lamar Jackson, it feels like we always have a shot, which is why I still hold out hope for this season. Even with the Ravens being 6-7 going into Week 15, they still have a chance to win the division and make the playoffs. But again, if the Ravens were to miss the playoffs this year, I think it would be painfully obvious for Steve Bisciotti to say, okay, look, if what I said over the offseason is true, that I won a Super Bowl now, maybe it's time to make a big swing. Maybe the message has gotten stale with John and the guys in the locker room. But I just don't know if Bisciotti's thinking like that. And, you can really sense, I don't want to say the tension, but kind of, yeah, like the tension from from the rumors that we heard about the Reddit post last week. When somebody broke up with their girlfriend, one of the players on the team broke up with their girlfriend, and the girlfriend released some information about the Ravens team that I guess she found out about from her ex-boyfriend, who's this anonymous Ravens player. Some people have speculated Zay Flowers. I don't know how true that is, but that Reddit post said, hey, look, Lamar and most others on the team, they want Harbaugh gone. So from rumors like that to what you see on the sidelines, now is Lamar Jackson, after another frustrating drive coming over to the sideline, slamming his helmet, right? That's not indicative of a player who's reeled in by his coach, who's led properly by his coach. That's not indicative of that at all. And this type of behavior has ramped up in Lamar Jackson over the past year. I think he's reaching his boiling point when it comes to John Harbaugh. You hear him screaming on the sidelines. This was reported by Tracy Wolfson. Like, hey, they know exactly what we're throwing at them. Their defense knows exactly what our offense wants to do. It's frustrating. I mean, when Lamar Jackson says those sort of things on the sidelines, and Zay Flowers is kind of echoing the same sentiments on the sidelines, you think they're talking to Todd Monken? No. Todd Monken sits up in the box during the games, way up yonder. They don't play defense. They're not talking about Zach Orr. The only person who is within earshot of those type of comments and who those type of comments would apply to is John Harbaugh. Is John. And up until now, we really have never heard the staple players on this team. So Lamar Jackson, the wide receiver one, Zay Flowers. We've never heard Mark Andrews, Mark Andrews doesn't say anything. He's just kind of happy to be there. I'm going to play hard for this organization as long as I'm a Raven. And the Ravens just love him for that because he's such a good boy. Right. And I don't mean it in like a derogatory way, but like, he's like the Ravens golden retriever. And we love him. We love him. Never gives us any issues. Right. Sometimes he has some cool performances. Hasn't really done it in the playoffs, but we're willing to look past that because we like the guy. But seems like some of the other players are starting to rebel a little bit. And I think that Lamar Jackson is reaching his boiling point. I mean, you think about how the relationship of Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh has kind of evolved over the years. You guys remember when Lamar Jackson first got into the league? And he was so, again, one of those happy to be here type of players, like so, smiling all the time, respectful. Of course, when he was on the field, he was a fierce, intense competitor, but still had fun with it too. Everybody loves him. Everybody in the media loves him. He's calling people, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, in the media. Now, 8 years later, still no Super Bowl appearance. And it seems like the relationship between Lamar and the Ravens is just a little bit rocky. You guys saw that video of the kid outside of the hotel in Baltimore or something like that? He runs into Lamar Jackson and he's like, "Hey, yeah, man." He's like, "Yeah, Lamar, I mean, Ravens flock, let's go, right? What do you got to say to Baltimore?" And Lamar's just like, "Shit, man, I don't know." This is recent, by the way. Lamar's just his body language is like, "Shit, man, I don't know. I mean, let's go Ravens flock," or something like that. Seemed like totally dejected, just disinterested. Like it didn't really seem enthusiastic about it at all. And maybe because some kid is running up to him and shoving a camera in his face and say, "Hey, Lamar, take this little short video." Sure, I get that. But the energy has changed, though. The energy has changed. But my point was, Lamar Jackson used to be this super respectful and super. Not to say he's not respectful now, but used to just be a super happy to be here type of guy. Now, the relationship between him and Harbaugh, you don't see them like really talking to each other on the sideline, like hugging or things like that. Like really like They used to do those. They used to do those things. Like because I think it was at that point Lamar Jackson was John Harbaugh's baby, pretty much. It's like, okay, we got you here. You're very special. You bought me out of a dark time. You bought me out of a dark place. Lamar, thank you so much. Oh, you want to go for that fourth down? Let's go for it. I was going to get fired 2 years before this, before you got here. Let's do what you want to do. Right. But the Ravens were never able to win a Super Bowl. And now, 8 years after Lamar Jackson had made that promise, saying the Ravens are going to get a Super Bowl out of him, I'm sure he's feeling like, okay, not all of the reasons why we haven't gotten a Super Bowl are on me. There's a multitude of things that could be done, that could have been done to get us over the hump, but they haven't been done. And oh, by the way, we have a coach who is not rallying the troops in a way, like the message is falling on deaf ears. And is very clear in the play from our players. I mean, the guys, they don't seem locked in. They score. The vibes aren't high on the sidelines even. They have no quality wins this year. Zero. I mean, I am not counting the Bears. I feel like the Bears are fool's gold. I'm not counting the Dolphins. The Dolphins are just frisky for being for the heck of being frisky right now. Not counting them either. Even though Lamar Jackson had 4 touchdowns in that game, Ravens forced a bunch of turnovers. I mean, that was a quality win. But if that's the best win of the season, it's like seriously. I'm not gonna say the Vikings, the Jets, the Browns twice. The most quality win the Ravens have is over the Miami Dolphins. Again, you can see that this team is all but falling apart in front of our eyes. You saw Lamar Jackson, how emotional he was after the Steelers game. And everything, even with everything that happened with the officiating, some of these controversial calls that maybe should have went the Ravens' way. If not one time, then certainly the next time. But neither of them did. None of them did. Um, the Ravens still didn't look like a team that is poised to win right now. They just don't look like a team. They look like a bunch of parts that aren't working together as a unit. That's what they feel like. That's what it feels like when I'm watching this team. You have stupid drops by Rashad Bateman that could have kept the Ravens on the field. You've got the guards like constantly missing blocks. You have Lamar Jackson on the very last play trying to get into the end zone as a last ditch effort to win that game against the Steelers. You have his offensive line and 1 extra blocker, so 6 blockers getting beat by 4 rushers. And Lamar Jackson is under duress, under pressure. 6 versus 4. You tell me what Lamar Jackson is supposed to do with that. And you tell me what Lamar Jackson is supposed to think about this organization. That's why I tweeted this last week. I said, guys, I don't think I'll survive the next Lamar Jackson contract negotiations. Keep in mind, Lamar is represented by his mom as his manager. So if it's just these 2 people, and I'm sure they have a lawyer and things like that to look over the documents officially and all that good stuff. But if it's just Lamar and his mom, we know nobody else has a more vested interest in the career of Lamar Jackson than Lamar Jackson's mother. And of course, Lamar. And if they're watching what's happening right now, right, and I'm not sure exactly how much Lamar's mom knows and understands about the game of football. I'm sure she knows a lot. I mean, her son's been around it all his life. But if she can see what everybody else is seeing, which I'm sure she can, is that the Ravens have failed to put an offensive lineman or a good offensive line around Lamar Jackson in the past couple of years. She could also argue, hey, they failed to give him a legitimate, undeniable number one target. You know, the price is just going to go up. Even with Lamar Jackson's numbers being down this year, the price is only going up for his next extension. I mean, when you have guys like Dak Prescott and Dak Prescott's good, or Trevor Lawrence, you know what I mean, making more money than Lamar. Lamar, of course, he's going to reset the market. Will the Ravens be willing to reset the market with Lamar again? I think that they will eventually because they kind of have to. But again, Lamar Jackson holds all the cards right now. He holds all the cards. I don't think that they will put the Ravens in a position where he says, hey, look, it's me or Harbaugh. I don't think that they would do that. But again, I think it just also comes down to how this season ends for the Ravens. If they miss the playoffs and the bottom completely falls out, then yeah, they very well could go that route and say, hey, look, Harbs, it's been a great run. You know, we respect what you've done for this organization, but we do think that it's time to part ways here. What is wrong with that? Somebody tell me what is wrong with that. Because at this point, I'm worried. I'm so worried that Lamar Jackson will be the first to leave the Ravens before John Harbaugh. And that's a scary thought. Can you imagine if the Ravens retain John Harbaugh? Can you imagine that first year without Lamar, whether he gets traded or whether, you know, eventually he retires or whatever? That first year without Lamar. Imagine if this Ravens team just goes right back to looking how they looked in 2017. Then it would just feel like we wasted at least 8 years, man. It's insane. Ravens don't deserve Lamar. Yeah, man. Bam Star 3 times says, hey, I'm late. What's the news? News is the Ravens released Carl Lawson. The Ravens signed Laken Tomlinson, a guard that the Texans just released a couple of weeks ago. 228 people watching live right now. I didn't realize this many people were watching live. Shout out to you guys. Hello, first and foremost, my name is Sutton Def. You are listening to Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, where we cover all things Baltimore Ravens. If that sounds good to you, leave a like on this video or leave me a follow on Twitter if you're watching on there. And also subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you are new. Multiple episodes coming out every single week, guys. As you guys know, some of those episodes, some of these live episodes are available for members only. So if you do want to join our membership here at the Rain Gang, that is also available for you as well. Got a lot of comments in here. Let me look at some of you guys' comments. Jeremiah says, I honestly cannot imagine a scenario where either of them plays or coaches elsewhere. Feels like it. Feels like it. Even if we make the playoffs, John needs to go. If John was black, he'd be fired years ago. But we can't really say that, because if that was the case, then Tomlin would have been fired years ago, but he's not. And I guess that just comes down to a difference in ownership and what their individual prerogatives are when it comes to how they want to run their team. This is a Steve Bisciotti thing more than anything. I don't want to necessarily say that it's a race thing, and because John Harbaugh's white, he feels like he trusts him more. He's going to keep him around longer, give him a longer leash. That stuff may be true. I don't know Steve Bisciotti. But, I mean, if there's anything that's on the line right now, is Steve Bisciotti's his money and his reputation. You know, we all know Steve Bisciotti, he is not just the Ravens owner, right? He's got most of his money from a staffing agency that I believe he created or he runs or whatever. But and here's the thing, I think that the Ravens are Steve Bisciotti is kind of at a crossroads right now where it's like, yeah, the team isn't that good, but the team still does have Lamar Jackson. And that checks a lot of the boxes when it comes to sales, right? Jersey sales, ticket sales, things like that. People will always want to tune in. Appreciate the sub, Bam. People will always want to tune in, you know, just to see Lamar Jackson play, just to see if he does something amazing on Sundays. And that satisfies the sales aspects of things. Yeah, the Ravens might not make it to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl every year, or contend for the Super Bowl every year, but I mean, butts are in seats. And that's what matters to a businessman, a big businessman like Steve Bisciotti. So, yeah, I don't think that it'll really wake him up and hit him that, okay, something's wrong with my NFL team that I own. He won't wake up and really smell the coffee on that unless the organization just bottoms out, misses the playoffs completely, ends with a negative record, and these next four games would have to be absolutely, again, catastrophic is the word I want to use to describe it. Like, I'm talking Ravens would have to lose by multiple scores in multiple of these games. Grifter, appreciate the sub, Grifter. Welcome to the Rain Gang, guys. But yeah, I don't see it. Let me see. Go Man says, I bet 1,000 we win this Super Bowl. Go Man is the most optimistic, glass all the way full Ravens fan I have ever seen in my life. But I appreciate it, though. Thank you for coming through so much, Go Man. Sometimes we need that optimism. But I got to call a spade, though. See the same thing happening with Lamar Jackson. That's my fear. It's going to take Lamar actually leaving and not coming back for Steve Bisciotti to kind of wake up, realize, and remember why Harbaugh was on the hot seat to begin with back in 2017. But right now, Lamar Jackson keeps Steve Bisciotti asleep and his pockets full. Therefore, he is happy. Would a Super Bowl be great? Yes, 100%. 100%. But as long as the team is making money and winning a good enough amount of games to where when we go to these owners meetings, I'm not like literally just embarrassed to be the owner of the Baltimore Ravens franchise, on than a damn near 70-year-old owner. The 70-year-old owner is like, hey, I mean, is this asset making money? Yes. Okay, check. When I go to the owners meetings, they're not going to clown me because we're always losing games, right? No, we have a great quarterback. All right, that's a check too. Sad to say, but it is what it is. I feel more cheated than defeated. That's true. I said that Monday's episode yesterday. I feel more cheated. I felt cheated by the refs on Sunday. I felt cheated by this coaching staff. Both. Yeah, guys. I'm going to go ahead and let this one, I'm going to wrap this one up. I will be live in about 30 minutes with a coach from Sip Tally Films on the Ravens Roundup. We're going to be talking all things Ravens. Me and the guys, Jose, Chris, Carrie, and Coach, we're going to be talking about our Ravens. So make sure you head over there to check that out. But before you guys leave, though, I have a very important announcement. Very, very important announcement. I mentioned this last week. I'm bringing it back to you guys again. I'm starting a separate YouTube channel. It's called Sutton Reactions, where I talk about anything and everything. You're going to get my unsolicited, very much so unsolicited opinions on current events, pop culture topics, movies, music, TV shows, whatever. But I need your help, though. I need your help on topics and things that you would like to hear me talk about. This is going to be a morning show. It'll be broadcasted live on my Sutton Reactions channel and probably paired with this channel to begin with. So that way, some of the audience here, if you do want to listen, you can kind of listen on both platforms for a while until I completely switch it over. But again, I'm going to be talking about any and everything. So I need you to send me topics to my DMs on either Instagram or Twitter. Just say that is, hey, look, this is a Sutton Reactions topic. Again, first episode is tomorrow morning. First episode is going to be tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Eastern time. It'll be live. So I need topics for this episode, guys. So make sure if there's anything going on in the world that you would want me to talk about, even if I don't have the most knowledge on it, I'll look things up, and I'll tell you what I think about it. I'm pretty knowledgeable about a lot of stuff going on around the world, which is why sometimes it feels criminal for me to get on here and only talk about Baltimore Ravens football for hours on end. Even though I love our Ravens, I do. Trust me, I do. But I want to kind of branch out a little bit more, and I've done that in the past with other shows, but I want to get back to doing it. So I need your help again. Make sure you follow or subscribe to Sutton Reactions on YouTube. That channel is live right now, just at Sutton Reactions. And give me topics. Send me topics, guys. That's what I really need. If you want to leave it down below as a comment in this YouTube video, that'd be awesome too. But mainly, I would want you, I prefer, DM me on Twitter or Instagram. Right here below, you can see my handle and how it's spelled, at Sutton Def. At Sutton Def right there. So make sure you guys go ahead and DM me those topics, man. Let me see. Lifelong learner. There goes Coach. There goes Coach. Terry Mitchell says, topic suggestion. Did P. Diddy do it? Yeah. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. JD says, I like the idea. Be careful with that. Yeah, I mean, this would not be the first time that I've done like an umbrella type of pod or a show where I kind of talk about any and everything, But I want to react to a lot of different things, right? A lot of different things, because I have a lot of opinions on things that I don't get to get off here on this channel. Again, love our Ravens, but they are not all of what there is to life, So that's why I'm starting this extra channel. Again, Sutton Reactions. If you got any topics for me, DM me on Twitter or Instagram at Sutton Def. Okay. I'm going to get out of here, get me a little bit of food in my system before Ravens Roundup. It's going to be a lot of fun on that show. Also, I will be on Charm City Sideline tonight as well, with Zach and Brad over there on the Charm City Sideline podcast. So talking Ravens football for the rest of the day for me. I'm a busy man this week, but I wouldn't have it any other way, guys. Wouldn't have it any other ways. I love you guys. Again, always remember, stay positive. Please, please, please test negative, and never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. My name is Sutton Def. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.